Hello and welcome to this step-by-step guide to rubber dam placement for anterior aesthetic cases. The first step, which is mostly missed by a lot of us, is evaluating of contacts. This is done to anticipate any super tight contacts or sharp margins due to existing caries which will eventually tear the dam. If the contact is extremely tight, you can take a finishing strip and slightly modify that contact so that the floss and the sheet passes very easily, and if there are sharp margins, slightly round them off before starting. Now, instead of using ready to use templates available in the market, why not use patient's own teeth as templates, which gives a more precise fit of the dam? So one clinical tip here, train your staff to help you out here, where you can hold the sheet slightly stretched as to how it will be while placing it, and then asking your assistant to mark the teeth for you. This way, you won't end up with a lot of sheet material in between teeth, which would make it difficult to slide it between the contacts as the sheet is stretched by you before marking. Now, the third step is to punch the holes into the markings made by us. As a routine, we prefer to use the second hole for upper anteriors and the smallest hole for lower anteriors. Once done, do not forget to apply some sort of lubricant like a petroleum jelly on the surface, which will be towards the teeth and gingiva, to facilitate in smooth gliding of the sheet between the contacts. You can do this by using a paintbrush or a cotton palette. Now that the sheet is ready to be inserted, we start with the canine first, gliding the sheets interdentally. Pre-evaluation of the contacts and lubricated sheet is going to make this step a breeze. It's critical we train our staff to help us well in stabilizing the sheet at the contacts we have already entered so that they don't slip out while we are inserting the rest. So you repeat the steps from canine to canine. One clinical tip here is, if it's very difficult to pass the sheet between contacts, then stretch the sheet and glide it in between that contact like you're passing a floss, and then glide it right in. Once the dam is in, the next step is to place the premolar clamps. Now, why should we do this extra step even if we are going to work on just the central incisors, for example? It's because, one, it pushes the dam more posteriorly, giving more working space. Second, it makes taking suction easier, as instead of water just gliding down the sheet onto the patient, as there is more space for it to pool distally. And third, like me, if you love documenting your cases, it makes taking pictures so much more easier and better. Now the question arises, should I punch a hole and pass it in the premolar contact and then place the clamp? The answer is there is no need, because if you punch, then you have to perform an extra step of passing the sheet through the premolar contacts, which in itself is a task sometimes. I'm sure you guys agree with that. And since we are not working on that tooth, we need not have it exposed, as our aim is primarily to have more real estate while working. Another question is, if I'm placing the premolar clamps, then do I need to give LA? And the answer is no, as the clamp need not make contact with the gingiva, making it completely painless to place. Now the final and the most important step in dam placement is inversion of the dam. This is most conveniently done by using a floss or a plastic filling instrument. Just the dam sheet covering the teeth is not enough. If the dam is not inverted, you can still have some seepage of fluids and your isolation is not complete. So spend some time on this step, making sure at least the dam is inverted on the working tooth or teeth, and at least one neighboring tooth on either sides. Like in our current case, tooth to be treated is 2-2. So you can see we have lateral to lateral perfectly inverted as a prerequisite for optimum isolation. The trick sometimes is to use a sharp probe with your assistant blowing air from the three-way syringe to invert certain places where the floss or the plastic filling instrument was not able to invert. As you can see in that canine, the distal of the canine contact was very tight, so I was not able to pass it through. That's why the canine is not inverting, but as you can see, from lateral to lateral, we have perfect inversion. So the key thing to remember is it's much more easier to invert the dam on dry tooth rather than wet tooth. As a finishing touch, we try and pass the floss and eventually the dam sheet through certain contacts, like in our case the distal of canines, through the contacts, so that we have better inversion even on the terminal teeth. So that's what we are trying to do over here. And we also pass the floss from in between contacts one last time if at all there are certain places where it needs to be tucked in. So this last canine, we are trying to pass the contact as much as possible, and then we can take a sharp probe and then just try and invert the dam to finally achieve the inversion desired. It's also important that the kind of inversion that you're seeing on the buccal surface, you have a similar kind of inversion onto the palatal also. Unfortunately, in this case, I could not record it, but in the pictures of the buccal and the facial views, you will be able to appreciate the kind of inversion we have achieved on the palatal also. In this view, you can appreciate that it's such a nice field to work in, especially for doing any bonded or restorative procedure. And that's how it looks from the facial, the perfect inversion of the dam, the perfect retraction of the gingiva for any restorative aesthetic procedure in the anterior segment. If you found this video helpful, feel free to hit the like button. It would really mean a lot to us, and share it with someone whom you feel it might be of some help. And do not forget to subscribe to our channel for more such videos on everything dentistry. Signing off, Dr. Mayank Doshi. See you in the next one. Cheers.